Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Imperfect Cheerleader Podcast. My name is Jasmine Neely, and we have a special guest on the show today, Gary Chupik. Welcome to the Imperfect Cheerleader Podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Gary's a mental performance coach who unlocks potential in professional and college athletes. His work with teams, athletes, and coaches uniquely positions him to work with athletes in high-pressure environments like cheerleading and dance. So, Gary, I'm going to get right into it. What do you think are some signs in someone that you may notice that could make them a great candidate for a coach like you?
Oh, right off the bat, we're going to ask interesting questions. I love it. What we're looking for are people who are driven, just have a competitive edge and they always want to get better. And so finding people who are growth mindset and finding people who are constantly trying to push themselves, who are willing to be their own experiments, I think is a valuable place to start.
So how would somebody's struggling with something, what would they do? What do usually they come with you with? Are they struggling with their mindset around how to present themselves at work, or whether they can get through an audition, or what are some of those roadblocks that you kind of see?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. It kind of depends how much time you have with the client. And it kind of depends on the nature of them wanting to meet with you. Like, for example, sometimes you'll have an athlete who wants to get over something and there's some type of a mental block. And so performing that kind of immediate crisis mental surgery can be really valuable. So it might take 1 or 2 sessions. And oftentimes they revolve around confidence. Like someone has lost their confidence and they just don't know how to kind of get it back. And we just know that a confident athlete always performs better than a non-confident athlete. So helping athletes get their confidence back is a crucial part of what I do. And you can do that fairly fast, actually. It doesn't take a whole lot of sessions in order to do that. But if you do have more time with someone, then I can go through my system or my process that will help them develop the kind of mindset that prevents them from getting into crisis.
Why do you think people or athletes lose their confidence? What sparks that, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, usually it revolves around their performance, like they're not performing up to their expectations or their coach's expectations or their parents' expectations, and it kind of weighs heavily on them. And so it's like an athlete carrying around a backpack full of bricks where they're not able to meet those expectations. And so to unburden them and just say, listen, honestly, you and I, even if we had a little athlete who is, let's say, in cheer or whatever, the honest truth is that we're going to go home and eat dinner and watch a TV show or just be together and just say, listen, what you're doing is important. I understand that, but it's not life, right? It's not that big. And so just to remind people that, hey, this is fun. This is something that everyone goes through. Like you go through a slump or you have that lack of confidence. But generally speaking, when you do have that lack of confidence, it's a bigger ramp to increase your confidence on the other side. So a lot of times it's just convincing people that, hey, what you're going through is not unusual, and a lot of people go through it, and it can really make you better if you can get on top of it.
Yeah, I think it's important to note, like you said, everyone goes through that slump. A lot of people may not say it, but I feel like we all think alike, and we all have a human mind, and we have emotions, and we lose confidence. Like, you can think of the most confident person in the world that, they project confidence outwardly, but they might not be the most confident. I actually recently saw Beyonce in concert, and she exudes confidence on the stage, but I'm sure she has moments where, she's not as confident. So I think it's important to know that, like, even people that you look up to may not be as confident. And I think that's super,
Yeah,
super important to
yeah.
share.
And everybody's bottom's different. And I don't mean that physically, obviously. Everybody's, I should say it a bit
It is
differently.
true, though.
Everybody's bottom or base, let's say, their base confidence is different. And sometimes for someone like Beyonce, one of the things that she would tell herself quite often is that, hey, I've done this before. I've already
Hmm.
proven that I belong on the stage. And so she gives herself reasons to be optimistic that she can be confident and accomplish whatever she puts her mind to. So she's kind of earned it. And so in my world, there's only two ways to build confidence with elite athletes, and that is number one, preparation. So if you are unprepared, if you're going into a presentation or a performance or a speech, if you haven't prepared properly, you're probably going to lack the confidence necessary to succeed. And secondly, you always have to prove it to yourself. So preparation and prove it. And when you keep proving things to yourself, then you kind of say, you know what, I think I can do this. I've been here before, or I've done aspects of this, and if I did it in this environment, I can do it in that environment. So it's preparation and prove it.
So good. I've read that you've inspired over 25,000 high performers and you've been on stage over 500 times, led over 200 training sessions, and coached over like 600 athletes and business people wanting to get better. What would you describe as your biggest transformation story with someone that you've worked with?
There's so many. In some ways, I think I have the best job in the world because I want the fruit of my life to grow on other people's trees. And so when I see them succeed, it just, I don't know, it just warms my heart. I just think, oh man, like there's nothing better in my entire life. So one example I have is with a young man who was playing hockey in Canada, and he was a very good hockey player. And he was struggling, and his potential was sky high, but he had lost his confidence. Because he lost his confidence, his play diminished. When your play diminishes, you don't play as often, then you don't play as well, and you don't. If you don't play as well, you don't play as often, right? So it's kind of like this never-ending loop of just continuing to slide down the depth chart. So he was playing on the fourth line. He was capable of better, but playing on the fourth line, and I had an opportunity to start working with him because they had reached out to me, and so this was one of those crisis moments, like help me get better fast. Can you do that? And I was like, well, yeah, I think I can. There's other things that we can work on, but let's just worry about today. So one of the things that I asked him about was, well, what's your defining quality? And he said, well, why does that matter? Like, I have to be good at everything in my sport. And I'm like, yeah, I know you do, but you have a unique position in sport. Like, there's all these different positions. And I said, so what's your position? He said, left wing or right wing. And I said, well, what unique attribute do you bring to that position? Because if you're a professional athlete, you bring your best stuff and your best attributes to that position. You don't bring your worst ones, you bring your best ones. That's what makes you very unique. And of course, yeah, you do have to mitigate your weaknesses, but you better focus on your strengths. So he said, well, my speed is what makes me different than everybody else. And I said, okay, so you're on the ice about 30 to 40 seconds every shift, and there's about, four different lines. And so you got these 30 or 40-second stints, and are you the fastest person on the ice, skater on the ice during your 30 or 40 seconds? And he goes, well, I might be, I don't know. And I said, could you find out? And he
Mm.
said, well, yeah. And I said, so what would happen if every shift you were the fastest guy on the ice? He goes, well, what about scoring? What about passing? What about hitting? What about all these other things? I said, don't worry about those things. Don't worry about them. You're so good, you'll do them instinctually. But just focus on what makes you at your best. He was the fastest guy on the ice for, a couple games, and the coach was like, oh, what happened to him? And so he made it. The coach put him on the third line, and then the coach put him on the second line. A few games later, the coach put him on the first line, and then he led his team in scoring in the playoffs. So there's an example of someone that just needed someone to acknowledge or just identify what was best in terms of his abilities. What's his best thing that he has going? And for him, it was his speed, and he just needed someone to just validate that and confirm that and say, well, go do that and see what happens and trust your instincts after that. And that's what he did, and it made such a big difference in his life.
That's an interesting story, and it makes me think about when you focus, and let me know if you agree with this, when you focus on what you're best at, then other things will fall into place. Do you think that's the lesson there? And do you think that's true among a lot of things in life?
Well,
Like, for example, with dance, you know?
yeah. I mean, that's really interesting. I mean, think about it. If you are confident in one area of your life, can that confidence spill over into other
Mm,
areas? I would say so. At the very least, it would increase your self-belief. And you are the CBO of your life, right? You are the chief belief officer. And so just knowing and sort of creating that track record of success that if I really put my mind to something, I might not know everything about it, but I bet you I can do that. And so at that point, they may not have all the confidence that they need, but when you start believing in yourself, it's a game changer. For example, with the Seattle Mariners, one of the very first things that we teach is belief. Is do you believe that if you put in the work and put in the training, that you can be as good as you want to be and achieve your goals? Some guys' goals are to reach the All-Star game. Some guys are to get the second contract. Some guys are just to make the big leagues. They have different reasons for wanting to succeed. But do you believe that you can do it? And so the way I like to teach belief, and certainly would be applicable to dance and cheer, is do you believe that if you put in the work that you can be as good as that you want to be? And
mm,
so think of a cup that has water. And in fact, I have a cup here.
mhm,
And let's say your confidence or your belief in yourself at the bottom would be a 0 and at the top would be a 10. But your level of self-belief, your current level of self-belief that's where we would put a hole. So if your current self-belief is a 5, and let's say you're teaching and training and coaching younger athletes, if their self-belief is a 5, let's say your self-belief in them is a 10, like they can do it. You know
mhm.
they can do it. But if their self-belief is a 5, no matter how much training and encouragement that you pour into that young athlete, they'll always leak at a 5. So
Mm,
your belief system determines your ceiling.
mm. That's so interesting because like, somebody else can believe in you 100%, but it starts with you. Like, I think I come across that. I mean, I'm sure so many other coaches can relate to that because they see something in their coachee that the coachee doesn't see in themselves. So like it starts with that self talk, that self work, and really doing things to become confident.
Yeah, and sometimes you really do need that person saying, listen, I believe in you. That does really, really help. At least initially, it really helps. Like, someone believes in me. That'll take people really far. In fact, even for me, as you've done some work with the NFL, Russell Wilson, the mental performance coach for the Seattle Seahawks, he had poured his life into me, and at that time he was on ESPN and he was on all these TV shows all across America. I mean, he was like top of Mount Everest. And here's a guy who believed in me, and he believed in me so much that when he taught me things and I picked them up fairly quickly, that he hired me. And so it's like, wow, like one of the best in the entire world has decided to hire little old Gary Chupik. And it's like, wow, like, are you kidding me? Like, maybe I should start believing in myself because he believed in me. And as a
Mm,
younger athlete, your coach or the people that are in your life, they're the people that you want to please with your life. So when you start just believing in kids and saying, you know what, I think you got this. Like, I think you have what it takes. What I tell my clients is the four most important words in the alphabet are NCNU. And it's what
mm,
I see in you. And when you just like prophetically speak that into someone's life and you tell them that you believe in them and here's why, I'm telling you, they never forget it. It's really true. And you probably have people in your life that believed in you, and you still, to this day, remember that they told you that they believed in you.
yes, for sure. I have people in my life that have told me like you have so much potential and like I think about those times a lot actually and I don't like I hold on to those memories of people that tell me that. And then it kind of like helps me to keep going because I'm like I have like what you said earlier, I have something to prove.
Hmm.
So yeah.
And you remember it. And the reason why
Yeah.
you remember it is because it was powerful in the moment.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, that's it's stuck in my memory.
Hmm. And so we can be that for other people. And we can
Yeah.
be that for the people that we work with, all these young athletes. We think we're just saying stuff into the wind because we're older, and life is more complicated and complex. But those young athletes, they remember. Even for me being in college, I was not a studious student, right? I didn't do very well in high school, and so I thought I got no shot in college, and I wasn't even going to go to college because I didn't think I was smart enough. So when I went to college, I had one of my professors said, "You know what, Gary? I think you've got what it takes to be really good." And I'm like, no one in the entire world has ever said that to me before in
Yeah.
terms of my intellect, right? So you're a really smart guy. I'm like, what? Like, is there someone behind me? Like, who are you talking to? And I ended up, not to brag, but I ended up finishing with high honors for my master's degree. And I was like, how did I ever get there? But I think it was the accumulation of people just believing in me, because I don't think I would have believed it in myself.
And I think the same rings true for people that may say something negative about you. I've heard of stories of high achievers that you see now that are maybe famous or well known, and somebody, it's like a teacher in their grade school told them, you will never be, successful, or you will never do this, or you will never do that. And then that is something that sticks in their memory, and it propels them to prove them wrong. And so I think it could work both ways. Hopefully it's the positive way, but I think, like they say, what your haters can be your motivators. That's
Yeah.
that's true as well.
Yeah, well, there's different kinds of fuel, right? Like there's what I would call, let's say, coal, right? Coal can burn dirty, and then there's a natural gas that burns really clean, or propane. And you want to try and find, eventually, what you want to try and find is clean burning fuel, because it's more long lasting. It doesn't come with all baggage, like you have a chip on your shoulder all the time. It's hard to live that way over a long period of time, living with a chip on your shoulder. It's not very a pleasant way to perform. But if you're chasing after something and it's inspiring to you, then you can kind of go, yeah, I can do that for longevity's sake. I think I can do that over a long period of time.
Yeah, absolutely. Now I want to go back to Russell Wilson because you've worked with him, and I'm curious to know how that came about from your work in, mental performance coaching. How does one get to work with Russell Wilson
Well, I
and so
didn't
many
work.
other athletes?
Yeah, I've worked with many athletes, but I haven't worked with Russell. But I was
Okay.
part of Russell's company. But having Trevor Moawad as my mentor, and then him introducing me to different people, I think was really powerful. But it was a long road. Like I say in life, oftentimes, let's say you pick a degree and you go after that degree, and then you have to take all these classes. But guess what? You don't get to choose all of your classes. And I think in life, there's a lot of situations where you don't get to pick the class that you're presently in. But while you're there, you should pass it, right? You should do your best and pass the test. And I think it's the same way with my life. I didn't aspire when I was a young man to be in sports psych, right? Like that was not my industry. But I was a pastor for 28 years. And so, helping people be at their very best, physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually, that meant a lot to me about sort of having a holistic approach to spirituality. And so to me, I believe in the quadratic view of people: body, mind, soul, and spirit. And I think my primary way of communication was not telling people what to believe, but inviting them to think about things, or consider things. And so for me, being in the classroom of being a minister was in some ways a very unique way, and some unique classes to take to do what I'm doing today, because I still help people. I still encourage people. I still inspire them to grow and to change and to be the very best that they can be. So I just feel like that was a pretty cool training ground to be able to do that. And my shift to mental performance coaching that's been a challenging one for me, because my identity has been wrapped up in being an ordained minister for so long, that it's just been a little bit more of a difficult shift for me. But I've come to the point now where I just surrender, and I just say, well, one of my superpowers is really loving and caring for people on every level, not just the mind. I think people feel that, and I think my clients feel that come through for me. I just don't care about one thing, I care about the whole person. So yeah, it might be one of my superpowers, I suppose, but I have a lot of background in leadership. So leading on a local, regional, and national level. So I think it was a pretty easy transition for me in many ways. But the running of business, like the business part of it, has been more challenging.
Yeah. What was the hardest part, would you say, about being a pastor?
Well, Warren Buffett said it's the fourth most difficult job or third most difficult job in America. A lot of people don't realize that, but he said the number one most difficult job in America is being the president. Number two, I think he said it was being the president of a major college or university. And number three was being a pastor. And I think part of the reason that is because you're kind of expected to be a jack of all trades. Like you should be able to do fundraising and public speaking and leading a staff and your CEO and your CMO and your COO and you're all these things, and you have to be, let's say you're going through a capital campaign, all of a sudden you're a project manager and then you're a counselor, and you're just like, you wear so many hats, where I think that's part of the difficulty. So you do get good at them given the fact that you're doing them for a long time, but they also, it's hard to be good at everything, and so you kind of have to narrow down. But as a pastor, you're just doing so many different things. And I think the most difficult thing that at least I found, besides the amount of hats that I had to wear, was just the emotional nature of coaching and counseling and leading. It's a very emotional job. And people come full of emotion with their challenges or struggles. And so you're managing people's emotions or helping them manage their emotions. And emotions are such a huge part of life. And so just becoming more nimble emotionally for me, just knowing how I'm experiencing my own emotions as well as somebody else's, and then maybe introducing or asking really great questions about, hey, have you unpacked your own emotions, and what does this mean for you? And like just continuing to be curious about people's emotions, I think is really valuable. So, and the emotions are loaded. Like they could come from a childhood experience, they could come from a tragic experience, they come from a really wonderful experience. You kind of don't know, because we don't, when you and I meet, we don't say, well, this is how I'm feeling emotionally all at once, and you just get all this like vulnerable depth. You don't. You're just like, hey, how are you? I'm fine. Well, I'm fine too. So we go through the niceties, but yeah, we're emotional beings and we make emotional decisions all the time. We'd like to think we're rational. We'd like to think we're logical, but the truth is that we're not.
Yeah.
Those do play a role, but in sales, we say people make emotional purchases and they justify logically.
Mm. Would you do it again? Would you be a pastor again if you had to choose?
Well, funny you should mention that. I've been asked, even in the past week, I've been asked that a couple times. I don't know. It's hard because I'm having a lot of fun doing what I'm doing, and being a pastor is hard work, and the pressure is on. I mean, imagine being on the stage every Sunday, like three out of the 4 Sundays a week. You have to not only like write a paper, but you have to be able to like practice it and present it, and it be like somewhat good, right? So there's a lot of pressure and stress. Would I do it again? I don't know. Off the top of my head, I would say that I'm already doing that. I just don't, I'm not within the four walls of an actual physical building, but I get to be a pastor type just in the world. And that's where I belong, and that's where I love to be. And that's what's most exciting to me. So I love being who I am and letting my light shine in the world. And so that's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a natural progression from going from a pastor to what you're doing now, and it seems like it's just a natural fit. You also talked about on Instagram, a recent Instagram post about quitting, and you said quitting was one of the smartest things that you can do. And we all know that's easier said than done, but how do you know when to quit?
Yeah, such a good question. I think we have a weird relationship with quitting, with the concept of quitting, because if somebody quits something, oh, what's the natural thing for them to feel about themselves? Right? That they're a quitter, right? Like they think,
Quitter,
well, if
yeah.
I quit this, I'm going to be a quitter. When in reality, knowing when to quit things is really smart. Like it's super smart. Like for example, I know this is like an exaggeration, but let's say you're around a group of people that are bringing you down. You should quit being around them. You should
True.
totally quit. You should quit that. Like you
Protect
should
your peace.
stop doing that. Yeah, yeah. And so yeah, you want to protect your peace. So you're just like, yeah, I probably shouldn't. I should quit that. And the more that we learn to quit, I think the and then we like make those decisions. I think the better off our lives are. So are there times where being steadfast, keep working at it, be consistent, put your head down, grind, be disciplined, have this habit or rhythm in your life, like don't give up. Yeah, I think that's really good. But the question is like which areas do I need to do that in? That's the
Mm.
real question. Because if we make it a blanket statement about everything, well, think of it this way. Think of like a businessman who's not doing very well and he's losing money every month. But he's not a quitter. He's not a
Hmm.
quitter, so he's going to keep going. Maybe you should quit. Maybe it's not working. And I know so many business people have gone into debt because they didn't quit soon enough. So it's not just the idea of like I'm a quitter, I'm a loser, people are. I'm going to be so embarrassed. People are going. What are they going to think of me? But in reality, quitting can be a brilliant thing. And I think the best business people I know, they start and they quit things all the time,
Mm.
all the time. So when we
Yeah.
talk about athletics, maybe that changes the dynamic a little bit. But yeah, but we have to choose and say, well, listen, I being on this team is really important to me, or preparing to be on this team is really important for me. The training, or the exercise, or the stretching, or whatever. Yeah, you shouldn't quit those. Don't quit those, right?
Yeah.
Because you're discouraged. Don't quit something because you're really that discouraged. But yeah, just know when to quit the right things.
Yeah. Yeah. And another question I had was like, how do you know what to quit? But I think every time you quit, it's a redirection to something else because life goes on, right? Like you're going to find something else to do that maybe you're calling, or you might find out, you might learn a lesson that maybe it's not, and it leads you to the next thing that might be. So I think, yeah, your point of it can be really smart. Like people quit smoking, people quit drinking alcohol. So those are like positive examples. And I think in the culture that we live in, especially just being Americans, we're kind of just like, no, you don't quit, you grind, you work hard. And I think for myself, just personally, I have a tough relationship with quitting because I never want to give up on myself. And,
Yeah, yeah. Well, me too. And you mentioned something earlier. You had a question that I want to circle back on. It's like, how do you know when?
hmm
And I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sure, but what I can tell you is that, at least in my experience, when, you kind of feel like you should quit something, but you're not really sure, but you kind of keep going. But then the things that were once easy become hard. The relationships that flowed now become rocky. Like
hmm
there's like the things that you just didn't take any effort now require tons of effort, and the things that you were easily motivated for now you're no longer very motivated for. And so it's like
hmm
it just becomes difficult on so many levels. And I think that's one of the signs, at least for me, that I'm like, okay, I think like I've had this hunch that I should quit, and I've been so concerned about what other people are going to think, or what would I do next, or it's kind of fear of the unknown. But in reality, it probably is time. It's probably time for us to quit.
Yeah, I've also heard when you're not having fun, then that's when you know it's time to quit.
Great point.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a lot of people will say, like yourself, like Gary, would you ever go back into ministry? Probably I would if it was more fun. And I
hmm
don't mean just like ministry in general, but I mean the setting. If it was just if I could have a lot of fun doing it and not take things so seriously, because in my view, everybody is as spiritual as they want to be. I can't make someone be more spiritual. I can't do that for them. Like you're as spiritual as you want to be. The good book says you a wise man can learn much from a fool, but a fool can learn nothing from a wise man. So you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink, right? And
Mm.
so I think coming alongside of people and just being present and being loving and being kind, that's about the best thing that we can possibly do. So yeah, fun is definitely part of the criteria for things that I want to do moving forward. I'm getting older. I'm 56, like I'm not young anymore. And so it's like whatever I do, I gotta have fun. Like that's a big part of it. Like that's important to me.
Yes. I imagine for athletes, thinking of mental performance can be an oversight sometimes because the product usually is about what your body can do. So, what would you say to an athlete that may be listening now? Maybe it's a dancer or cheerleader who's trying to make it to the next level but doesn't think that she or he should prioritize their mental exercise.
It makes such a difference. I shared an example earlier about someone who's, their entire game changes. A defensive end with the Seattle Seahawks. Um, he read the inner game of tennis. He was a football player, an NFL football player, a big guy, and he read the inner game of tennis in their bye week, and it changed his game. So I mean, there's just like the mental part of things is so important. And in my world, you do everything twice. You do it in your mind first and then in real life. So if you can't imagine yourself doing something, it's probably really detrimental to you actually acting that out. So if you don't act, like a lot of people won't do something because they can't see themselves in their mind doing it. So if you can work hard at seeing yourself doing something in your mind, for example, being on stage, whether you're performing, or no matter what you're doing, if you're performing, if you can't really see yourself doing it in your mind, it's going to be harder to actually perform while you're there because everything is new. Like you haven't experienced this before. And we talk about mental imagery or visualization as pre-practice. You get to like get in mental reps before you actually perform. So I think that it's really valuable to utilize a lot of the skills that we have in mental performance to be able to help us perform at a high level.
In one of my courses, I do have a exercise where I have, whoever's listening close their eyes and picture themselves in the uniform of their dream team, like dancing on stage. And I think that whatever it is, whatever you want to call it, meditation or prayer, or visualization, I think is important, like you said, because if you can't see it, then you might it it's harder to do it actually in your physical body. So I love
Yeah.
that idea.
And what we're really trying to do with visualization and seeing things for the first time in your mind is you want to try and involve all five of your senses. So, for
Mm,
example, if you really, let's say you're in a gym environment, well, you want to be able to smell the mats and you want to smell the sweat. You might ask, well, so what are you hearing? Well, you're hearing voices, you're hearing some high-pitched screams, you're hearing conversations. So you're imagining yourself in that environment. You'll say, well, what do you see? Well, I see parents walking around. I see coaches walking around. I see judges walking around. I see just chatter going on. And then what do you feel? Like, what can you like feel with your fingers? Like, what do you feel? I feel the mat. I feel my
mm,
feet walking on the floor. Like, you're just trying to engage all of your senses. What do you hear? Like, what do you see? What do you feel? And the more that you can engage your senses and kind of put yourself there already, the more comfortable you'll be in those big moments.
I'm gonna do that the next time that I want something that I've set a goal to. I'm gonna close my eyes and visualize and think about all the five senses. I've never really thought about that, and I think that's a
Yeah,
really good.
we call it in visualization techniques for mental performance. There's basically two. Ultimately, there are two different kinds. There's still focus and motion focus. So still focus is like taking a picture of yourself in your mind of you performing that and having a great time doing it. Let's say you hit that move and you're so excited and you're just so proud of yourself. So you want to have a picture, like a Polaroid picture almost, of that in your mind. And then you want to do the motion focus stuff, which is like, okay, I want to rehearse the healthy, positive, good movements in order to get me there. So I'm actually rehearsing it in my mind. But sort of the preamble, you're right, is that five senses thing. And then you want to invite them to do the still focus and the motion focus. And when you put that all together, it's a really powerful visualization techniques.
Wow, that seems really powerful. I haven't done that before, but I'm gonna have to put that one on my list. Now, I want to be careful with this next question, and I don't want to completely, like overly generalize, but rather ask this question based on science. It seems as though women naturally and like just biologically tend to think differently than men. And there's a stereotype that might be true that women are more emotional than they are logical, and vice versa for men. Is there a difference, or have you noticed a difference in how you train women opposed to men, and how maybe they react to some of the mental exercises that you might do with them?
Yeah, that's a wonderful, insightful question. And to be fair, I haven't really noticed that much of a difference because
Hmm.
I know some highly competitive women. They're amazing. So, but I think their expressions, there's a range of expressions that I think women, they're more, they're more vulnerable relationally, and so they can share their feelings a little bit more than maybe perhaps men might. But the emotions are just as strong, and they're all there, and they're the same. So I think maybe in terms of expression there could be some variance, but even like for example, I've been married 33 years and my wife is less expressive than I am. Like we often tease like I'm the female in the relationship. I'm in touch with my feelings and I find, you know, the vocabulary to describe what I'm going through or how I'm feeling is a little bit more robust than hers. And then sometimes she'll just pat me on the back and say, "Oh, you got to suck that up, Gary," you know. So yeah, I don't know. I don't, there's, to me, there's not enough of a variance in the expressions for me to notice a significant pattern.
Yeah, we're all human, and sometimes people may think that men don't know how to express their emotions as much, but I think it's just it's case by case, it's person by person. Um,
Very much so.
so, yeah.
Yeah, very much so. And then how we express our emotions. Like one of my clients that I work with, I do something called the Game Plan for Life. So it's a 2 day experience that people have with me. They fly to Seattle or they fly me to where they are, and I teach them how to live a high performance lifestyle. So when I was working with a client and she said, she goes, you know, I'm going to cry for the next 2 days. And I'm just like, okay, like thank you for the heads up. Like this is like, like it won't be because I'm saying something wrong. It's just, you know, so she was like, I just want to warn you, just want to let you know. But that was just her way of expressing her emotions, and there was nothing right or wrong about it. In fact, I was really glad that she was able to express and had that level of trust that she was able to express her emotions. So, and guys are just different. Like guys will go for a walk or be quiet. They're feeling the same emotions with the same intensity. It's just that their expression might be a little bit different. But I've seen lots of women do that too, and girls do that. So, yeah, I don't know if there's much of a difference there.
Yeah, it brings up another question about what do you think are the three top traits of high performers?
Well, in my view, uh, you know, I say this with a lot of hesitancy because I don't think resilience is something that you can teach in one session. It's like when you do all of these different things and then you become a resilient performer. But I do think that for a lot of really high performing athletes, your ability to reframe failure very quickly, like the speed in which you experience a failure and rebound, that is a trait of many high performers. So yeah, your ability to reframe failure in a very, very quickly is actually a wonderful trait to have. Because I mean, if you think about it, you can't dwell on the loss or the failure very long. You kind of got to get back into the game mentally so that you can perform your next move or do your next thing. So I
Yeah.
think resilience would be one of them, one of the most powerful traits. I think number two would be it's kind of similar in a way, but it's having a short memory. So when something goes right and goes really well, if you stay on that memory for too long, you get distracted by your own success. And so I think
Mm.
really high performers can say, you know what, yeah, I won yesterday, but I'm playing today again. Here we go. And so having a short memory for me, and if you do something negative, right, or something goes wrong, it's the same thing. So think of it like driving a vehicle. You have the rear view mirror, you have the side mirrors, and you have the windshield. And if you are gonna think so much or be preoccupied with the rear view mirror, it's actually dangerous moving forward, right? Because you're always staring at what's behind you. Well, that
Yeah.
event is behind you. And so to gaze at it or to navel gaze at it or to just give it so much energy and attention is not helping you. So what's going on in the real, in the like in real time in the moment are your side view mirrors. And should you know what's going on beside you? Absolutely. So you should be glancing at those in the present moment. However, looking through the windshield is like that's where my focus goes, and where your focus goes, your energy flows. So you want to be able to keep looking through that windshield and say, hey, what's next, and how can I prepare to be at my very best in that next moment?
Always be looking forward. Gary, what do you have going on in your life right now, and what would you like to share with my audience about your work?
Yeah. So one of the things I'm really proud of is in the last few months, I created something called the Mental Performance Assessment. So it's an assessment that people of all ages can take. It's at elitemindset.assessment.com. Even though it's my program, I just created a certain domain or unique domain for it, but an elite mindset assessment. And if anybody that's listening to this wants to take it, I'd be happy to give it to them as a free gift. And it's elitemindset.assessment.com, and the discount code when you go to pay for it is all caps elite, and you can take it for free. So it's a free gift for your audience, and it'll measure 22 different aspects of your mindset, and then you'll know what to work on in terms of your mindset. If you can increase every area by 10 or 20%, overall, that's a lot of improvement for an athlete if they know what to work on. So even if they work on every area just a little bit, but maybe there's an area where they're kind of struggling, and let's say they're at 20 or 30%, to really focus on that area, 50% bump in their performance because they really paid attention to that one area. So it's a free gift, and I'm really proud of it, and I think it's the most thorough mental performance assessment on the internet, and I'm quite confident of that because I know what's out there, and I think it's really.
Yeah, everyone go check out the elitemindset.assessment.com. I'll have to check it out as well. Gary, thank you so much for coming on. I do have some rapid fire really quick if you have time to stick around for that.
Let's go for it.
All right. So, okay, what is the most important thing in your life right now?
My faith in Jesus Christ.
Amen. Stay up late or get up early?
Get up early, 3:45.
What's your go-to healthy food?
Grapes.
Go-to fast food or junk food?
Tacos, totally.
Those can be healthy-ish sometimes.
Absolutely, they can.
Best song that helps you focus?
Oh my goodness. Best song that helps me focus. I would say, there's so many. I would say there's a song by Skillet, a band named Skillet that I really like, and it's about just being at your very best and using every part of who you are to live at your highest, for your highest and best use. So it's your heart and your hands, right? And I want people to know my heart, and I want to be able to work with my hands and help people. So yeah, it would be. It would.
What's one thing people might not know about you or would be shocked to find out about you?
I love peanut butter. I hate the smell of peanut butter.
Whoa, that's shocking. That's so shocking.
It's
That's so you
shocking.
like the taste, but you don't like the smell. Interesting that
Exactly.
the senses reject themselves. But what makes you imperfect?
I sometimes I'm so concerned with being right that I don't get it right.
That hits
So it's
home for me.
important for me to be right, but in the process, I don't get it right all the time. Like I might say it in the wrong way. I might come across as arrogant or like I know what I'm talking about and everyone should listen to me. But you can be right and not get it right, and I have to
Yeah.
work on that.
Yeah, that intention is always there. And I usually end with that one, but I have one more. What's the best advice that you've ever received and the worst advice that you've ever received?
Best advice I ever received was you cannot control outcomes, but you can always put yourself in the best position to succeed. That's the best advice. And the worst advice I ever received was follow your heart. And
Hmm,
I don't know my heart well enough to follow it.
interesting.
Yeah, like I think the heart is really hard to know. My feelings are already hard enough. And it doesn't
Yeah.
mean that I can't trust my instincts, but following my heart, that's a little bit harder. I feel passionate about lots of things, and so I don't know which thing to follow. So,
I
or
think
which
it's,
direction to go.
yeah, it kind of gets jumbled and scattered all in there.
Exactly,
Awesome.
exactly.
Well, Gary Chupik, thank you so much for coming on to the Imperfect Cheerleader Podcast. This was amazing.
It was a lot of fun. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for tuning in to the Imperfect Cheerleader Podcast. Taking the time to listen while you're busy with all of life's responsibilities means the world to me. If you enjoyed this episode, here are a few ways you can support ICP. Number 1, hit the subscribe button so you always get newly released episodes and never miss them. Number 2, take a screenshot of the episode you listened to and tag at the professional cheerleader on Instagram. I love to repost your tags and shout you out on stories. And number 3, write a review on Apple Podcast. This is the best way to show your support for the podcast and helps bring us even more guests, interviews, and topics. I hope you have a wonderful day and continue to work towards your goals of becoming a professional cheerleader, dancer, or someone who just loves to move, honey. I'll see you next time on another episode of the Imperfect Cheerleader Podcast. Bye for now.